I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How are you doing? This is the Libertarian Podcast Review. I am Tyler Yonke. I have nothing. What I'm going to do today. What is it? Today is Friday, the 21st of January. We're cruising. We're about 112, not quite 112 through the first year. Hope everyone's doing fine. I'm trying to figure out, look, I've had some issues with my podcast. I'm using a board. I'm doing the sound. It's not controlling it at all. This is a problem. However, I think one thing I did cure was the echoing. So hopefully I won't have a problem with echoing coming in to your sound when I play some clips. Problem is, this fucking music needs to tone itself down, and it's still going, and it has 30 seconds left. I'm going to just stop it. I'm not going to do that. My name is Tyler. I do podcast reviews. I interview some people, and today I'm going through just some clips that I had in my phone. I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to show you I'm not going to show you what's on my phone necessarily, but I moved these clips over to the computer. I also was on two shows last week. I was on David Brady's Road to Providence. So we're going to play some of that. And then I was also on the Gumtree of Liberty live. I did 2 hours and 45 minutes. And then we actually beforehand and after, thank you for shutting up music. It was actually over 3 hours. So I did David's midday and then I did that one. And so I did like almost 5 hours of podcasting, and I had actually a great time on all of it. So I thought I'd maybe play some clips of those. I'm also going to play a few clips because I talked about the Supreme Court-ish thing. So I think David, I do a pretty good breakdown of that one. And so I think maybe you should head over there to David, and I'll link it up here. Road to Providence. He does a Sunday special. And by the way, it's not got a lot of views, like 12 views, but I got some compliments, not from me necessarily, but people are like, hey, this David kid is actually asking some really good questions. And I would actually say, yes, David is asking some really good questions, and he does a great job, and he's 16. So head over there, check out his show, and especially my broadcast. But he's had Jose on, which, by the way, Jose was on there. Maybe we'll start out with the Jose clip. Okay. Jose was on there, and Jose made a comment that I thought was actually pretty funny. I think I'll play it, and then I'll reveal a little behind the scenes from Jose. So Jose on with David Brady. There you go. And let's play this clip. 25 seconds, real quick. Talking about Jacob of Biblical Anarchy, Winograd.
Because he sort of broke podcast etiquette. Because, I feel like this is roughly podcast etiquette. I mean, I don't feel like it takes much to be able to figure it out. You don't ask to go on other people's shows. You can ask people to come on your show, and then, and then from there, and even then, I don't think you really should ask them to go on their show. It depends.
Okay, so I didn't cut that. Maybe I got someone doxed in there. I don't know what just popped up there, but I think I figured out if I'm recording from my phone, what I don't do, if I'm going to edit it out, I got to put on the focus like sleep mode or do not notifications, something like that. Anyway, what's interesting is I had Pete on my show. I had Clint on my show. And what happened was Clint came on, and then he got and kind of this whole time period, he then got asked to go on Dave Smith's show. So he was blowing up. And then Pete comes on my show, and I interview Pete. And the very next day after I'm putting it out, the very next day, he gets his Twitter account back that he'd had nuked for a long time, like a year or so. It just came back. And so I posted online. I'm like, hey, Clint comes on my show. He goes on Dave's. Pete comes on my show. He gets his Twitter account back. Who's next? I'm a kingmaker. And then Jose does ask to come on my show. So Jose came on, and then Tower Power went on. I think I said to Jose, I said, so this is what happened with those guys. You're probably going to be deployed. And no, he did not get deployed. But I'm just making a joke there. Podcast etiquette. I'm not asking to go on people's shows. I haven't asked to go on anybody's show. There's the Libertarian dad. He had asked people to ask him to be on their show. So I did. And I think he reached out, and I think we're going to do some stuff like that. I have some fiery takes about being a father. beat them. And actually, David asked me, and I don't think I'll find the clip, but I would check it out there. He says, as a libertarian father, what about raising kids? What is it? And I said, well, I have sons and daughters. So to be a pure libertarian, the boys are selling weed, doing drugs, and the girls are sex workers. I'm joking. That's not true. The boys aren't selling weed. Okay, let's maybe take a look at my take on with David Brady, Road to Providence. And hopefully this won't kill everyone out here, but this was his 6th episode. He had me on here, and I thought I would just play real quick a little segment that I did there talking about the Supreme Court. So you can check out the whole thing, but I did talk about the Supreme Court. And then I'm going to actually play some clips from the Supreme Court, but fire it away.
Last week, the arguments took place. So last weekend, I think it was last weekend, I listened to the whole thing, and I took some snippets of it, it's recordings, and I was shocked at, and it came out with the ruling too. You had Breyer, Kagan, Sotomayor. Kagan was better, but Sotomayor, I think everyone knows, is just outright some just stupid stuff. I've been saying this for years. I'm like, if you look at the Jacobson, which people talk about, Jacobson v. Massachusetts, it was in 1903. The state of Massachusetts was able to mandate that some guy get a vaccine. Okay. That went to the Supreme Court. They said that's perfectly fine. But if you read that ruling, it's specific to, okay, Congress can make laws about this. Federal doesn't have police powers, but the states do. So if you really are worried about the ruling of the OSHA, even after the fact, it's that your state, mine, California, can probably mandate something. I've thought that all along. That's no brainer. Anyway, so the arguments come. Sotomayor is just out of her mind about COVID and all these things. She says that the federal government does have police power, and Flower, the attorney that was arguing against it, he actually rebuts her in a way that's like a mic drop. I have a clip of that. I'll have to kind of get going there. Breyer, his arguments, he kept just saying, I can't understand why you're here. You want to stay? You still want to stay? So it was kind of ridiculous that they weren't arguing the merits of the technical part. I also wish that the argument, everyone just kind of said, oh, vaccine is really necessary. So it wasn't even, there's not a libertarian argument to this. Okay. So now you have some bad arguments being made, and then you have the ruling comes out. It's a 6-3, and you have Kagan, Sotomayor, and Breyer all on their response. And once again, they don't really argue the merits of the technical points that were being argued, which were one, that who's actually in charge here. OSHA, the president said OSHA is going to make this demand. Can they even do that? It's a major question doctrine, which is, okay, Congress has the power to make laws, and they have an agency. There's a executive branch agency such as OSHA. Have they delegated their duties and their abilities to make a law to an agency? They can't just say, here's this agency, now the agency can do whatever they want. So the major question is, if there's a major question as to what that duty is, then it's probably a non-delegable task, which means they can't do it. So that's kind of the argument there. And 6-3 said that the OSHA doesn't have that power to do so. Kagan, once again, those 3 lunatics on the court, on their response, they didn't delve into the technical side of this point that should be made. They just emoted. It was, I can't believe it. There's so many. Well, even if they didn't have the power, they should still do it. It's crazy. And some of the good arguments were, okay, so it's an emergency. What's the last judge that was put on the court? Coney Barrett. She actually is like, okay, so it's an emergency, but when does this emergency end? We have no idea. So I'm glad about the ruling. Then there was a technical side about it for healthcare, which
okay, we're not going to get into that because I kept misstating. I was correct, but I, being out here in California, I used the word Medi-Cal, but it's actually just Medicare and Medicaid. Okay, whatever. But point is, take a look at that. That was actually probably the most comprehensive breakdown I did, and I didn't want to do it again, so I just thought I'd find that. And David did a great job of the whole thing in there. Anyway, okay. Next one I'm going to play here for you is I showed up on the Aussies, great group of guys there as well, and the Gumtree of Liberty, and there was a little bit of audio issue to begin with, but you get past that, and we had a really good conversation. Basically, Josh Epps goes on, and I'm going to explain it here real quick. I thought maybe if you want to do that, but then we just delve into all things Australia. As we were on there, and I was on the show, they were on tomorrow. I was even asking what's going to happen tomorrow because they're already in tomorrow. And I'm going to tell my favorite Aussie story here when this is over that I told them, I think, after the fact. It looked like it was still going and recording, but Stuart was pretty sure that we were offline. But I'll tell that story as well. But we talk about Josh Zepps. We talk about all the camps and stuff that they have there. And then Djokovic, actually, the hearing, the ruling came down as we were talking. It might have been near the end there. So they had good insight of that. I just loved it. I did ask them all to do an American accent. They all turned me down. Very disheartening, but there you go. Okay, let's go to the tape and me talking about Josh Zepps being on Rogan and kind of a breakdown of that.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about it first? Sure. Okay, so I have a little bit of an insight. And just backstage, we were talking before we started. You guys said you weren't too familiar with Josh, so I've actually been somewhat familiar with him over the last 5 years or so. He used to be in the U.S. He would appear on many libertarian-ish podcasts, not as a libertarian himself, but kind of as just an antagonist. And I don't really know where his politics fall. It seems to be sometimes liberty-oriented and other times not. Maybe kind of a Glenn Greenwald style in a sense. So I've been familiar with him. He's pretty brash. I've actually somewhat enjoyed him, and he goes on Joe Rogan. He's been on there, I think, 6 times. So he showed up on this one, and this one kind of obviously piqued your guys' interest because he was saying some things that I think felt to me were a little bit untrue from everything I've heard there. And Joe Rogan pushed back on him. There was 2 big issues that we had, kind of talking about the camp stuff, and then another one about Mark myocarditis, and I think Joe kind of backpedaled on that after the fact. So as far as giving Josh the benefit of the doubt to begin with, he is friends with Joe. He didn't join in the media scrum trying to take Joe Rogan down, which everyone seems to want to do, the mainstream media here in the U.S. But with that said, he came off very statist-like when he was trying to defend. And actually, Joe said at one point, and I'll let you guys kind of maybe get into the issues, and then we can, I guess, talk about those. But Joe actually said at one point, you sound kind of like you're representing the state, the government. And he said no. And then, as you guys have mentioned, he worked for ABC, which is your state-run media, I guess. That's my understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we'll check that out. And but there's a lot going on there. Once again, almost a 3-hour podcast. Me personally, I had a great time. Really interesting guys, and we delved into all kinds of stuff. Centrist, he had to take off. I'm actually in a group chat with him. Good guy. We chat a little bit on. He's the one that invited me on. Stuart's on there as well, so I've been connecting with him. Jack Curley, this is the first I've talked with him, and I think he's a journalist, an independent journalist over there with the Austrian Libertarian Network. So good guys, very interesting. I'd love to go back with them. I know CD McRae has been on their show quite a few times. I've seen her on there. But it's just interesting to have a conversation with some people that are like-minded, first of all, but you have some different inputs. And so, I don't know their law. They don't know, they're asking me questions about ours. Stuart's going to law school and he's a really smart guy and he knows a lot about their stuff as well. So it's just interesting to hear. And by the way, I didn't know that their country was so diverse. It always just seems like a white, like a Scandinavian style country to me, but evidently it's not so much more, being infiltrated. Immigration has really changed over there for them. So I thought the other one, let's play some of these clips. Let's do that. Let's go to these clips here. I did the podcast etiquette one, totally fine. And then let's talk about the Supreme Court. And in no particular order, this one here is with Breyer. He was talking about the number of cases. And to me, that is, so annoying. And when people just talk about cases and doing so the way that they do here. So let's start with Supreme Court arguments and Breyer talking about cases. Just a quick 38-second clip.
Wrong, and please tell me if I am. But the numbers I read is when they issued this order, there were approximately 70-something thousand new cases every day. And yesterday, there were close to 750,000. So if we delay it a day, and if it were to have effect, then 750,000 more people will have COVID, who otherwise, if we didn't delay it, wouldn't have. I mean, I don't doubt the power of the court to issue a stay. I'm just saying, what are the consequences of that? And if I'm wrong, you better tell me I'm wrong, because I thought that it.
Okay, so once again, I recorded that from my phone. Yes, I did. I thought while I'm doing that, I was going to take a look here. Try to play a clip real quick here, and I think this is important because this is the understanding. He cited two stats, and then he put a line between them, a ruler, and he said this is a trend. Two statistics of daily cases yesterday and today, and so therefore we have a trend. And tomorrow there's going to be. Logic is going to follow that it's going to be the exact same number going out there. So it kind of reminds me of this. I just thought of this, and we'll pull it up, see if it plays.
Did you know that disco record sales were up 400% for the year ending 1976? If these trends continue, hey!
Your fish are dead.
Yeah, I know. I can't get them out of there.
That's exactly way to go, Breyer. What an idiot. Sorry, this is a fucking idiot. And the reason I say that is because one, if using cases in general is the dumbest thing we've been doing. Okay. And the reason I say that is we don't know if someone's tested yesterday or today. If you're testing every single person every single day, then you can have your controls and you could then project much better about cases, but you don't know that. You don't know who's being tested every day. Some people could have it. Some people don't have it. Testing a friend of ours, her kid is being tested like quite a bit. This is what's so dumb. He's had it for like 6 weeks positive on one test and none of the other. So the school won't let him come back. There's no way he's been positive this whole time. He's feeling fine, but he's getting obviously a bad thing. And they're recording each time he does that as a positive test. Okay, so that's one reason. And then two, just as Disco Stu said there, trend lines don't necessarily predict anything. And so just because you had stats from one day to the next, and once again, you're not having any control with those, F you, Breyer, in that sense. So, there we go. Let's see here. I'm going to save that one. Delegated authority. So this is what I talked about, the major questions doctrine, which is somewhat of a complicated issue. But Sotomayor tends to think that it's, and she'll say it here, that it's complicated, and yet it's not. And so which is it? I don't know, but here we go. Oh, wrong button.
Either because they're vague or because there are statutes that seem to have conflicting provisions, where they point both ways. And then the major questions doctrine is an aid to interpretation of that statute. It's essentially a kind of clue about how you should interpret a very difficult to understand statute.
Okay. Once again, she said it's a clue of how you interpret a very difficult to understand statute. She just said very difficult to understand. Now listen.
And the second way is there's really nothing difficult to understand about this. The agency action falls within the scope of the statutory authority. There's just no question that it does. And yet, because the agency action is kind of a big deal, we're just going to ignore the fact that it falls clearly within the scope of the delegated authority and say that, notwithstanding that that's true, Congress has to re-up it. So I think I'd like you to talk about those two.
Okay. So just once again, it's a clue to a very difficult doctrine, and this doctrine is very simple. So that's how she starts out there. Delegated duties. And I did describe that in the major questions doctrine. You don't just get to and it's obviously a dangerous thing. And look, the Supreme Court did not take this because these people are all blue-pilled. I don't know about the Supreme Court themselves. Maybe Gorsuch and Thomas aren't, but everyone in their understanding is, you could tell the way they talk about this, they're very blue-pilled. So they didn't. OSHA, of course, it's a body that's and by the way, there was 26 or so different states had this suit. There was a bunch of companies, several of them included in their lawsuit, the provision that OSHA is not even constitutional. Supreme Court gets to take in which ones they actually want to hear. And they obviously did not take any of that to have that statute heard. Everyone just assumes it's lawful. Everyone just assumes that vaccines are the only way to go, even though there was, some argument there. And the counsel's like, look, we're doing this remotely because I've got COVID and I've been vaccinated. He did say that, but then not to say that vaccines aren't, he has to retreat from all that. Risk of the unvaccinated. I thought this was an interesting clip as well. Supreme Court risk of the unvaccinated, and maybe this is part of the one that we I was just mentioning. Here we go. This is a little longer. It's about 2 minutes. Hang on.
Weighs another risk, and that comes up throughout regulatory space.
That's absolutely true. And one of the risks that OSHA was guarding against here was the risk that unvaccinated.
Okay, so this is counsel for the government that you're hearing from right now. There was first they had the arguments from one of the states and one of the other petitioners, and then you have the government counsel here.
Vaccinated workers pose to other workers because they are so much more likely to transmit this deadly disease to them.
What type of workers? To other vaccinated workers?
Yes, the grave danger finding
I thought the Secretary disclaimed that.
Yeah, the grave danger finding is limited to unvaccinated workers who are far more likely to contract it from their coworkers as well.
That's not a concern for us, is it? We can't sustain this on that ground, that this is helpful to the vaccinated workers because the unvaccinated workers present a risk to them.
Oh, to be clear, they present a risk to other unvaccinated workers who might be older, who might have other comorbidities.
Have balanced the risks differently, maybe very foolishly, but they want to balance the risks presented to their health in a different way. And OSHA says, no, you can't do that. And that applies when you're on the job and also when you're not on the job and for the rest of your life, because you have to take these vaccines, unless the testing option is valuable.
Well, one small factual correction, if I could, and then a broader legal point. I think it's wrong to say that everyone who's unvaccinated is just assuming the risk. Some people can't get vaccinations for medical reasons. Some people have deeply held religious beliefs and are entitled to religious exemptions. And OSHA is entitled to try to protect those unvaccinated workers, no matter the reason they're unvaccinated. Just on the broader legal point, the idea that OSHA is powerless to act to protect workers if they simply want to assume the risk is inconsistent with how the OSH Act has been understood throughout its history. OSHA frequently requires employers to require that the employees use protective gear or take precautions.
Isn't it the case that most of the time there's this strong reason for saying that it isn't a defense to an OSHA Act charge that the employers assumed the risk voluntarily, that under most circumstances, employers have an incentive to avoid compliance with, to avoid the costs and inconvenience of a regulation. And so we don't want to put the employees under pressure.
Okay, evidently my phone was losing battery. There you go. So I thought it was good pushback, and I believe that was Roberts. It almost sounds like it might be Alito, but I believe it was Roberts. We're going to play probably one of the most famous ones you have seen out there, which is Sotomayor calling for the 100,000, the kids, and then there's just insanity from her this whole time. But basically saying there's 100,000 infected kids.
Now we are on to Omicron, and as my presence here as a triple vaccinated individual by phone suggests, as Justice Sotomayor suggested, and as the amicus brief from the American Commitment Foundation shows, vaccines do not appear to be very effective in stopping the spread of transmission. They are very effective in stopping severe consequences, and that's why our states strongly urge people to get them. But I think that makes it very hard to look at the numbers they give and assume that they still apply today.
Counsel, those numbers show that Omicron is as deadly and causes as much serious disease in the unvaccinated as Delta did. The numbers, look at the hospitalization rates that are going on. We have more affected people in the country today than we had a year ago in January. We have hospitals that are almost at full capacity with people severely ill on ventilators. We have over 100,000 children, which we've never had before, in serious condition, and many on ventilators. So saying it's a different variant just underscores the fact that without some workplace rules with respect to.
Okay, she's done. And by the way, that's a bunch of crap that she's stating there. They're not. And so I tweeted out here. I was like, I think only maybe her, Kagan, and Breyer read an amicus brief from CNN, because the shit they were spilling was a little bit much. Kagan wasn't as bad, but she was not good as well. And this is, let's see, delegated. I already did that one. Cases. We did that one. I think this is the last one I want to do, which actually to me was the most shocking. I know it's all this. You could get all kinds of bad info from the press, okay, which I understand because you're watching the press. You're saying 100,000 kids are vaccinated and on ventilators, which is bull. But this is probably the worst one. This is L1 first year of law school, constitutional law, you learn that the federal government doesn't have the police power, and that's the delegation of the differences between the states and the federal government. And here is Kagan and Flower, I think that's his name, the prosecutor, or the guy bringing the petitioner here, the attorney for them. Actually, it's almost like like I said, a mic drop. And this is the clip I was referring to when I was on date with David Brady.
Could impose it themselves or private businesses. So we're not making.
So if it's within the police power to protect the health and welfare of workers, you seem to be saying the states can do it, but you're saying the federal government can't, even though it's facing the same crisis in interstate commerce that states are facing within their own borders. I am not sure I understand the distinction, why the states would have the power, but the federal government wouldn't.
And I'm going to let him answer here, but she doesn't understand the distinction because the delegation of duties, which is anything that the Congress, the federal government, I think that's what the 9th or 10th Amendment there, that basically says anything not delegated here to the federal government is then the powers of the states, which can do. She doesn't understand. Well,
the government has no police power.
It does have power with respect to protecting the health and safety of workers. We have accepted.
Notice how he said they don't have police power. She used the word police power. He came back and said they don't have that because that's a very technical term. And then she says, oh, they do, but she doesn't say police power. She says they do have the power to control the health and safety. Okay, well, you didn't say that. You said police power, which is a little bit different.
Constitutionality of OSHA.
Yeah, I think you'd be asking if they had police power to protect public health.
They have a police power to protect workers.
Well,
I would not call it police power. I think the Commerce Clause power allows them to address health. Sorry, that question. Allows them to address health in the context of the workplace.
Okay, so he gets her to say exactly like that's what I was saying. No, it wasn't, you dumb bitch. So, and I'm saying that because she is the way she's talking there. As a Supreme Court justice making decisions on your lives, that's the way you treat someone like that. Sorry, that's how it is. You don't give them respect, at least not here. If I'm arguing before him, of course, I'm not going to be rude like I am here. Have I said to a judge? Yeah, I've said some things to judges before. It's a lot of, what was the word I used? Not going to go here. Okay. So anyway, that was my favorite part of that one, and the little blowback that she got, and she deserved it rightly so, because that's a bunch of crap. By the way, if you're looking into the real problems with the Supreme Court and the powers of the state that have been overextended, is what, 30s, I want to say, Wickard v. Filburn. It's a guy, it's where the Commerce Clause was out of control. I even wrote a paper on it in law school called Weed and the Commerce Clause or something like that, and basically talked about this one. And then Raish and Garcia, I think, is another one that was in California about weed. That kind of, the Commerce Clause got clawed back a little bit, but the Wickard v. Filburn one, the problem was, guy, I think is in Iowa. He's corn out there. There's a provision out there at the time that the federal government gets to regulate your production of corn or what have you. And so this guy's like, I'm not even doing it. He's doing it on his own farm for his own cows. The federal government comes after him because he's not engaging in commerce. And they say, due to the Commerce Clause, we can actually come after you. And they extended it to say, yes, commerce between the states includes you not participating. That was then used for Obamacare as well. And, all hell is broken loose. Okay. I thought I would give a little shout out. Oh no, don't tell me that I got this in here wrong. Let's see if we can get it right. Nope. It's not working for some reason. So I think I know another place I can find it. What happened was there's these ladies online. They decided to do a podcast. And so a bunch of chicks did it. And I say that with all due respect. So I thought I would actually review it. So I reviewed it, and I think here is the review of their show. By the way, it was 2 hours or so. And so I think this is about as comprehensive of a review of Liberty Ladies as you can get. And this is exactly how I watched the entire show. I watched it start to finish, and I just filmed myself doing it. Ready to go.
Oh my God, no, but it was funny because I started getting on like sober TikTok, and it was like, all your friends don't do cocaine.
And so I was always used to things being like independent and you doing things yourself. And to the Jody Show,
because all I do is like gym and tan and laundry. But my nephew, he had a lot of serious issues. Not serious, but like.
So who wants to go first?
Well, Zan, did you finish your phone?
That's it.
Okay. Anyway.
Not giving in to the vaccine mandates, especially.
And there you go. Bye, guys. That's how I watched it. So if you want to watch their show, feel free to check it out. I don't know where it's at. One of those ladies online, you can find it. They post there, and they get a lot more views than I do because I'm not a woman and or good looking. So, okay. Last week I decided to try. I've got a few other clips here. I thought this one was actually an important clip. Let's see if we can. Hopefully this one will come out just fine. Okay, let's do this one. I thought this is more like a PSA. So if you want to, you were talking about weight loss and stuff the other day online. So I thought this one was an important one for that.
Now, Jenna, medically speaking, for your height, your weight puts you in what we call the disgusting range.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, there are solutions. For example, crystal meth has been shown to be very effective.
If you're not averse to losing your teeth, that might be your option. So if you're one of those grossly obese people, check out crystal meth. Okay. Last week, Tower Power Hour, they decided to have Eric, I was almost said Hugh Jackman, Eric Jackman on, which is great. But thought I'd play a clip of this because I decided to do something completely stupid. And I got mentioned here on their show. So take it away. Episode 53 with Eric Jackman. It was a funny one, by the way. But critique, just one critique here, gentlemen. There's one, let's just count them off here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you. Okay. 6 of you plus Eric. And by the way, this is a great caption here. Dousing the bottle there. And, but too many hosts, just too many. It was a little tough to hear. So then what I did, I live streamed myself watching them, which was you put 8 on there. And if I get a guest, they could probably do 9. My whole point was to have Andy. He's been on Garbage Man. He'd been on Josh's show, and I think he's been on Tower Power, but he was talking about he keeps wanting to go back on. And I'm like, hey, this is the way to do it. We'll just stream them live, and we'll be on there commenting about it. So I did it for about 40 minutes of this. Well, by the way, the dumbest thing I've done. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But take it away, gentlemen.
Now we should get Dave going Figuritarians. I think that'd be pretty funny.
He's already done it before, hasn't he?
He's already done it?
I think he's had
Hudak on his show.
Dude, I hope they have me come on. I'm just gonna go on and go nigger and then just like bounce.
Really? I had to get the N-bomb on my show now.
God damn it, Jose. Couldn't do actually. He didn't up to that point and then didn't do.
By the way, guys, Tyler Yankee, I guess if you want to live stream this and get commentary, he's live streaming on his channel, which is really weird. Like, I don't know. I'll have to watch this later, but I don't know if he's giving commentary. I don't know what the fuck this is. No, he's really like, what the fuck? He's just mad whoever's watching that.
He's jacking off, actually.
That'd be awesome. What's funny is he's always in our group chat, which this is gonna be so like inside baseball or inside cycling, if you want. Inside job. But like he's literally always. I don't think he works. He's like he owns his own.
You know, I was gonna say that. I'm like, this guy's a lawyer, but he's like so active in the group chat. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
He's also like always showing pictures of him like renovating his house. And he's like, just got this done, and it's literally all flooring.
Dude,
like,
I just realized he's
doing
a
all day.
I was just gonna say, you guys are gonna call me a Fed because I'm unemployed, and then he's a Fed too.
If he's a Fed, they're doing it smart though, because he knows his shit.
Wait, so I'm
right, you know?
the most obviously not a Fed because I work the most, right?
No.
Does that mean you're most likely to be a Fed?
Right. Dad told me you're a Fed, Reed.
Oh, well, yeah, we do have that.
I'm also not a Fed because I fucking shipped a firearm through the mail to you. So that's true.
I would never discriminate you.
Wow. Okay. Let's clear this up. One, yes, I'm in this group chat. I'm at my computer. I'm working. I'm dressing like this. When I go to court, I'm actually put a shirt and a tie and a suit jacket on, and I just sit here at my desk and do it. Yesterday, actually, I had to drive to the armpit of California, Stockton. By the way, armpit is too nice of a word for that city. Ugh, that is disgusting. And the homeless are out of control there. Nice courthouse. Anyway, I do take off and I do other things, but I'm efficient. I'm doing a podcast here. I'm in 34 minutes in. I'm going to post this out the way I have my production. I'm easy to go. Boom, boom, boom. I can do this. No problem. It's a Friday. It's 3:30. I'm leaving here. I'm going to go to happy hour. Renovating my bathroom. Yeah, I do that on the weekend. And I would literally, it took me a week. I came into work, worked full day. I'm chatting away with these fuckers. Go home and get some dinner, change some clothes, get to work. And I'm doing that till like 11 o'clock. Yeah, I did that for like a week. You worked on the weekends. You just do it. And, you have a life. I'm kind of somewhat efficient. Just do what I have to do. And yeah, I'm in your group chat. I love you guys. That's because I have fun in there. Are those all the links I have? Yeah. Let's talk one last thing, which is podcasts. There's a few different podcasts out there that are rebranding themselves. You got Lions of Liberty, 3 guys on there. See if I know them. Brian McWilliams, Mark Clare, and John Odermatt. They all are splitting off. They have their own show. So if you've only got the one podcast catcher, you need to go and find each one of those for their individual shows that they're doing stuff. And I think they're still going there. Pete Quinones, I know, is rebranding his. He got kind of spit out of the Libertarian Institute. There was some other drama online. If you watch this, you probably already know all about that. So I'm not going to go into that. All the best for you, brother Pete. So check out his show. I guess he's rebranded. Tom Woods is coming up with a new announcement. I think you go to tomwoodsannouncement.com, put your info in there, and he will email you when that actually happens. So there you go for those kind of announcement. Am I rebranding? No, we're still here. I'm just scattered enough to, and I'm not a Fed, by the way. I do have some clients that are federal employees from FBI agents and such, but I'm not a Fed. I just work and I'm efficient, Cole. By the way, check out that podcast mic that I sent you. Maybe it has a little bug in it. Okay. So that's it for me. What else? Anything else new coming up here? No. We're going to get some more guests. I got to get back into reviewing some shows, a bunch of clips. Today was just fun times throwing those out there, but we'll get some more. Definitely. Oh, Liberty Lockdown. Clint, who said I'm a super supporter. Yes, I am. I'm just a douche that likes all this stuff. He just had on Martha Bueno, District 10's very own county commissioner elect. No, she's running for office as a libertarian, but she left the Libertarian Party when some guys that weren't libertarians came after her about some stuff. And so she was out. Imagine you're running for office. Okay. And some dudes in your own party thrash you online because you seem woke or you're identitarian or whatever. And you're so disturbed by that you leave the party. Imagine how strong you're going to be when the Democrats and the Republicans come after you for being, a baby killer or whatever it is. I don't know, baby killer. I don't know what it stands. Well, she's opposed to. She wants sanctions for Cuba. So we'll just say she's killing people over there in Cuba. And she's a baby killer. Imagine how it's going to be when the rough and tumble real parties with real power come after her. If you can't stand up to your own party, but this is why I love Josh Smith. He's out there, and Angela McArdle is a good example. They're not giving a shit about these kind of things. They're standing up to it. Of course, they're rumbling with their own party so they can wrestle control so you can do what you want to do. But if you can't do that, I'm going to say this the most inappropriate way possible. Good luck, honey. That's all I'm going to say. People, I'm done. It's Friday. I'm going to go to HR, happy hour. Wait, happy hour is HH, not HR. My wife, no wonder she's like, you have an HR department? All right, that's all I have. Thanks. And let's tone this volume down if I can later.
I just started live streaming. Cut me some slack. I'm pretty high tech for a boomer. But anyways,
boomer.